What's up, Nerdyverse? I'm Daddy Louie, and in this video we are taking a look at a game called Dice Command, so stick around. Before we get started, if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. Make sure that you subscribe for more content and hit that bell icon so you don't miss any future videos. Dice Command is a brand new Kickstarter launching in just a few days. Late September, early October is the release date for this. It was created by Sam Crystal and Tyler Holman. It is for ages 10 and up, 2 to 4 players, and takes around 30 minutes to play. In this game, you are going to be playing as a general in command of an army. You will use dice in place of units. You will place the units, advance the units on the board. You will use tactical advantage cards. You're going to manage your resources, giving your units commands, assigning your units to different commands, all while trying to get your units across enemy lines. In a 1v1 game, a 2-player game, the first player to get 4 units across enemy lines, and in a 2v2 teams match, the first team to get 5 units across enemy lines will be declared the winner. But is it good? Well, if you join us on the table, we'll check it out. Okay, so the first thing that I need to note is that this is indeed a prototype copy. So everything that you see here is, of course, subject to change. Although, after having played this game quite a bit, I can say that I hope not too much changes, because I really do like everything that's included here. Just upgrading some of the components, I think, would be enough, but that's obviously up to them. So, first thing to note is we have 4 barracks, and inside the barracks I've thrown in 10 of the colored dice that goes to each player. So these double as a location for where your ready to use units will be. That's what the barracks are, as well as a dice tray. So you can use this to throw your dice into. So there's 4 of those included for the 4 players, and 4 colored dice. So you got blue, green, red, and black. All the colors except for the black are translucent dice. I really like that. I hope they keep it, but that's something that they may not. So we'll just have to wait and see. So each one of the players that's playing will be given one of these. In this video, we're really mostly just going to focus on 1v1, a 2-player game. But just know that there are rules for a 2v2 team battle, as well as a free-for-all, which will be for 3 and 4 players as well. So you'll have 1v1, and then you also have a 3-player free-for-all, 4-player free-for-all, and then the 2v2 teams. So, yeah, so that's those. We have some tokens here. We have our credits, our research tokens, and our mine tokens. We'll go over all of those in a minute. We have our command cards. There are 4 cards for each color, and each player will receive their 4. They're identical in every way, just the colors are different to annotate. These are the basic commands that you can give to your units. There are other things that you can do with your units as well, but these are just the ones. These are the go-tos. These are the ones that everybody's going to have access to. We have our facility cards. At the beginning of the game, you deal 2 of these to each player. They will choose 1, and that is the one. Each player will choose 1, and those are the ones that will get used. These are control points on the map, and if you control them, you can use them. So they're cool little abilities there. You have your tactical advantage cards. These are always changing throughout the game, and these, whoever's turn it is, will have access to using these. We'll talk about those more in a minute. We also have our alliance cards. These are used only in the team battle, which I talked about a second ago, so we won't really take a look at those very much. And then we have our board. So there are a few different configurations here. If playing a 2-player game, you will only use 1/2 of this beach board here, and this is all you will use. So small footprint, which I really, really like. If you are going to play teams, you extend that by adding a second half to the beach board there. So this is what you would use for teams. And then if you're going to play a free-for-all with 3 to 4 players, you flip it over and you have this cool minefield here. So I really like that. I like that the footprint is real small. Even if playing with 4 players, you don't need very much space to play, which is really cool. So that's all the components. I'm going to go ahead and set up for a 2-player game, and then I will show you guys how this game plays. Okay, so here I have set up everything that you need to play for a 2-player game. Each player will get a barracks dice tray. They will get their 10 colored dice. They start with 5 inside of their barracks and the other 5 outside in their reserves. They also each start with 3 credits, and they get their 4 command cards. You want to make sure that your command cards are facing up. Up is the side that shows the upgrade symbol. All of these can be upgraded later and then flipped over for more powerful effects. So you want to make sure that they are unupgraded first by showing that upgrade. Then each player is going to be dealt 2 of the facility cards, and then they are each going to play one face down. The other is discarded. And then once both of them have played them, they will flip them over to see what they are using. So in this game, in this example, we're using research facility and news press. So if you control these spots, so for example, if I have a unit inside of this 1 square here, that means that I am controlling the news press, and I get that effect as long as I have that unit inside that facility. And same over here with number 2. So both sides are the same. You're going to deal out 3 of these tactical advantage cards. Each turn, if a tactical advantage card is not used, the last one in the line gets pitched, and everything shifts down 1, and a new card is drawn. So they're kind of use them or lose them, and like I said, both players have access to this when it is their turn. So you're all set up and ready to play. You're going to roll off to see who goes first, and then it starts with the first player. Play is played in phases, so there are 6 phases total in each turn. So the start of the turn effects is the first phase, and that only applies if you have any start of the turn effects. For example, here, this facility, the news press, if I had a unit here, this says at the start of your turn, you would gain 1 credit. That's when that happens on your turn. Otherwise, you skip this phase. And then you go into the roll all units in your barracks. So all of the units that are currently in your barracks, you start with 5, but you can gain more and lose some. You're going to roll them out. You can roll them right into your dice tray, and then you can start divvying up these units with what you want to do. So this is where the core of the game is, placing your units on the different things on the board in order to assign them commands. So each player has the 4 commands here, which we'll talk about in depth in just a second. You also have access to the 3 tactical advantage cards that are currently out. And if you have any units on one of the facilities, you also have access to them as well, if they're not one of those passive abilities at the start of your turn. So let's talk about these first, and then we'll talk about the core stuff. So like I mentioned, each round or each turn, you're going to have 3 tactical advantage cards out. And then if you don't use any, 1 is going to go away, and everything shifts down 1 and a new one comes out. So you'll see on these tactical advantage cards, there's spots for you to be able to assign your units to them in order to do stuff. So for example here, this precision airstrike, it says deal 4 damage to all units in a 2x2 area. In order to do this, you need to have an even dice. So I've got 2 even dice here. I have a 2 and a 6. So I could assign this to, and you need to pay 1 credit. I have 3 credits that I start with, so I could pay that. And then in the next phase, the resolve phase, phase 4, I could then spend these 2 things. They go away. The credit goes back to the pool, and this goes back into my barracks. And I would deal 4 damage to all the units in a 2x2 square. So I'd pick a 2x2 square. Precision airstrike would happen. Now this card is unique in that it also has a research icon at the top, any tactical advantage cards that have this research icon there, they, instead of doing the effect, you can also spend this to gain a research token, which the research tokens are used to upgrade your basic commands. So keep that in mind. You don't always have to do this. And then once that effect is spent, this would go away, and then at the end of the turn, everything would shift down, and we would draw a new card. And you can do that for everything that's up here. Now, the facilities, if, for example, this 2 here is gain 2 research if you assign stuff. So if I had a unit in the number 2, facility here, on my assign units phase, which is phase 3, I could assign a unit, any unit. It doesn't have to be anything specific. It's just a blank square. And 2 credits, which I have. And then again, during phase 4, when I resolve all this stuff, this goes back to my barracks, the money goes away, and I would gain 2 research tokens. So that's how assigning stuff to the tactical advantage cards and the facility cards work. It works the same with these commands, except each of these command cards both players have access to, and this is the core of what you're going to be doing. So let's first talk about, let's see, which one should we talk about first? Let's first talk about headquarters. It's the most basic one. This is how you deploy your units. So these have no restrictions as far as which dice number you need to use. So you can assign any unit there, and during the resolve step, you would then place these on a spot on your front line here. And then you're going to start advancing them and using them in that way. If you assign 2 deploys, you can also then assign an advance. And the advance allows you to spend from the advance pool here and move an extra turn, because in phase 5, you're going to get to advance stuff anyway. So advancing lets you basically move 1 unit twice in the same turn. If you have any research tokens, you can also assign a research token there. And when you resolve everything else at the end of your resolve phase, you would then flip your card over, and you now have a more upgraded headquarters. The headquarters and the conscription both only require 1 research token to upgrade, whereas the financing requires 2, and the research and development requires 5. And it will make sense why in a minute, because they're really powerful. So that's headquarters. That's deploying units onto your front line. The only other restriction that I want to talk about is that when you are deploying units, you can only deploy units unless something forces you to deploy a unit and says otherwise. When using the headquarters, you can only deploy units that are a different number than what's already on the board. So if I have a 6 on the board, and I have let's do it like this. If I have a 3 on the board and a 2 on a board, I cannot deploy this other 3 because I already have a 3 on the board. You can only deploy a different value than what you already have on the board. Again, unless something forces you to deploy, in which case you can kind of break that rule. So that's how deployment and advancing works. Conscription is how you get new units from your reserve into your barracks. So these will deplete over time. When they get taken out, they don't go back to your barracks. They get put in your reserve. So in order to get new units onto the board, you just pay a credit, and then when you resolve, you get to bring new stuff onto the board. So the first unit that you resolve costs 1 credit. The second unit you resolve costs 2 credit. When you upgrade that, you can then do 1, 1, 1 for $1, and then the last one for 2 credits. Financing is more powerful. This is how you are generating credits, which you can then use to do other things. So your first assigned unit will get you 1 credit. Your second 2 will get you another credit. Upgrade for 2 research tokens, and now you can get even more stuff. And you even have a passive that says if you have 4 credits in your barracks at the start of your turn, you gain a credit. So you can be rolling in the dough with this financing command card. Okay, so research and development. You assign dice here, any number, and you gain a research token. So this is how you're going to generate research tokens. If you upgrade your research and development with 5 research tokens, you get to also place 2 units from your reserve behind enemy lines. So it gets you halfway towards victory. And it lets you upgrade. Once you've upgraded, again, you can spend 2 dice to gain a research token. You also get at the start of your turn, you may exchange a research token to gain a unit or to gain credits, a passive ability. And for an extra 3 research tokens, you can place 2 more enemy units behind enemy lines, winning you the game. So you don't just have to advance troops across the field in order to win the game. You can also win the game through research and development. So you want to make sure that you're watching your opponents and how much they're gaining research tokens, because the first 5 they spend here, they get 2 units behind enemy lines. The next 3 they spend there, they get 2 more. So 8 research tokens will win them the game if they decide to do it that way. So that is how you use, that's how you perform phase 3 and 4. You assigned units, credits, and research tokens on either your tactical advantage cards, on your facilities that you control, or on your command cards that you have back here. Then you resolve them in any order that you want to. So let's go through some basic, maybe some first turn stuff. So maybe that's my first opening turn. So I resolved any start of turn effects. I had none. Then I rolled my units, which you saw me do. Now I've assigned the units to different things, and then I get to resolve them in any order. I have nothing left in my barracks, so everything has been assigned. So I'm going to do this precision airstrike, but instead of doing the airstrike, I'm going to take the research token. So I've spent this credit, and I've spent this unit. He goes back to my barracks, and I get a research token. Now over here, I'm going to spend this unit in order to get a credit, so I get the credit back that I just spent. Over here, I'm going to deploy my 6, and I'm going to deploy my 5 onto my starting line, and then I'm going to spend this in order to, actually, I didn't need to put a unit there. That's to gain a unit. So I would have put a credit there, which would have been spent. So I have an extra one of these. I don't really have anything to do with it, so I'm just going to leave him be a wash. And then I'm going to spend this in order to gain a unit from my reserves. Okay, so that might be my opening turn with resolving. You saw how I did that. So now I'm going to advance. So this is how you move stuff across the field. This is the 5th, and this is spent, by the way, so this is discarded. So we've spent all of our assigned units, the credits that we assigned out, and now we're going to advance. So when advancing, there's a few rules to follow. If you have a 1, 2, or 3-sided dice, a 1, 2, or 3 face dice showing, then they are considered light infantry, and they can move 2 spaces. That you can either move forward or diagonally. The only time that you can move side to side is when you're in this front line here, unless a card says otherwise. And you can never move backwards, again, unless a card says otherwise. So during my advance step, I don't have to advance if I don't want to. Anything that is a 4, 5, or 6, it can also only move 1 space. So I'm just going to go ahead and move, let's see. I I kind of want that 2, and I want that 1. So I'm going to move this guy up there like that, and I'm going to move him like that, and that's my movement. So now the final phase of the game, or the final phase of the turn, is refresh the tactical advantage cards. So like I said, these will shift over 1, and we will draw a new card. Now, let's say I had used the middle card, then still everything would shift. You're basically shifting everything down so that the new card from the top of the deck can go in the leftmost spot. And if it can't, because you have 3 cards, then the last card on the right gets discarded. And that is a full turn as far as the phases go. So now I want to talk a little bit more about the units and how combat works, and then you guys will be good to go. Okay, so there are 3 different types of units in the game. There's light infantry, heavy infantry, and advanced units. Light infantry is 1 through 3. They can move 2 spaces, but they can never harm an advanced infantry. They can deal damage to a heavy infantry and other light infantry, but they cannot deal damage to advanced infantry or advanced units. Advanced units are units that are stacked on top of each other. So anytime that you roll doubles during your phase 2 of your turn, you can stack those doubles on top of each other when deploying a unit, and that will deploy them as advanced. You combine the value together, so these 2 3s here make a total of 6, and that's how that works. A 4, 5, and 6 is a heavy infantry. They can harm everything, but they can only move 1 space. So that's kind of like the balance here. So light infantry moves 2 spaces, can never damage advanced. Heavy infantry move 1 space and can damage everything. Armored units can move 1 space, and they can obviously damage everything as well. And their value is combined with the 2 dice. So you can go as high as 12 with 2 6s on top of each other. So here's how combat works. Anytime that you advance one of your units into a square with an opponent's unit, you enter into combat with them. And it's very simple how combat works. You basically just take the face you're showing and the face they're showing and subtract numbers. So, for example, this 6 here, he can move into the space with the 4. Combat happens immediately. 6 damage is done to the 4, so the 4 is dead. 4 damage is done to the 6, so the 6 goes down to a 2. So he goes from being a heavy infantry to a light infantry. Now, next turn, if left undamaged, he could move 2 spaces. Here we have this 5. This 5 could go into this 2, in which case this 2 would also be gone, and the 5 would go down to a 3. And then this armored 6 could go into this 6, which would then wipe both of them out. Anytime that you have a unit die or be destroyed, it goes into your reserves, not into your barracks. And you need to conscript them again in order to get them back out onto the field. So that turn was pretty good for the blue. He still has 2 units on the board. He obviously lost to his advanced unit, but now he has 2 light infantry that can move 2. And this poor guy has basically nothing left on the board. But that's how combat works. It's very, very simple. Just remembering that, it happens immediately. Numbers just get subtracted from one another, and that light infantry can never damage advanced or armored units. And that's basically it. So you're going to spend your turn resolving start of turn effects. You're then going to roll whatever units you have available in your barracks, and then you're going to assign those units to either commands, facilities, or tactical advantage cards. You're then going to resolve all the assigned stuff that you have by completing the effects and putting them back into your barracks, or if you deployed them, putting them out onto the field. You're then going to advance any units that you have and you want to advance, doing any combat that happens if you advance into your opponent's spaces, and then you're going to refresh your tactical advantage cards before passing it on to your opponent. You're going to do that also while upgrading your commands, trying to make them more powerful, spending your credits and your research tokens wisely, managing all of that. And that's the game, guys. That's everything that you need to know in order to play Dice Command. All right, so what do I think of Dice Command? Well, in case you couldn't tell from my enthusiasm when showing you how to play, I really enjoy this game. Gameplay is really tight. The rules are very well developed. It's intense. There are multiple strategies to win the game. It's not just, walk your units across the board. You can also win by focusing on research, managing your resources better than your opponents, and all of that stuff. It has a small footprint. It doesn't require a lot of time to play. You can get a very rich strategic game in just under 30 minutes, which is not something that you can say about a lot of games. And the footprint is small too. Like you saw, I can have everything that I need to play the game right here on my desk. And I really enjoy games that have small footprints like that, but still give you the depth of a much bigger game. In addition to the 1v1, the teams, the 3-player free-for-all, the 4-player free-for-all, there's rumors of a solo mode. If this game is successful on Kickstarter, that's something that the team would like to try and see if they could develop. Also, there are small expansions as stretch goals that are possibly planned to add optional modules, which would increase replayability. So there's a lot here, and the development team really cares about the success of this game to propel their future into other games. So, as always, I will leave links to everything in the description below. Make sure that you go and check this out, especially once it goes live on Kickstarter. Show them some love, and I hope that you guys enjoy this game as much as I have. What do you guys think of Dice Command? Let me know down in the comments section below. If you'd like to see more from the Circle of Nerds, make sure you check out our social media. We have Facebook, we have Twitter, we have Instagram, all at Circle of Nerds. We also have a Patreon. Make sure that you go and check us out there. Show us some love. We have multiple shows on our channel. The Cosmic Disaster Show, which is a podcast that we record where we talk about the things we love to hate. And we also have a show called Nerds on Ice, where we have a panel of nerds who get fired up over today's hot topics. So there's lots coming from the Circle of Nerds. We have more planned for you guys coming up in our next season. We have a contest going on right now. There's just all kinds of stuff. Now is a great time to become a fan of the Circle of Nerds, and I hope that you guys will consider joining us. Anyway, guys, that's all from me. I will see you in the next video.